Hello and welcome to the Awaken Feminine podcast. I'm your host, 𝐂𝐚𝐭𝐡𝐥𝐞𝐫𝐞, and today I have a beautiful, beautiful sister with me, Cathleena Hailley. She is a frequency alchemist that carries original activated source codes and is calibrator for your energetics field. Welcome back, Cathleena. I've had you on the show before, so I'm excited for our conversation.
Thank you, Kaki. So nice to be here. Yeah, it's been a while since we've seen each other. We were just saying that, but yeah, I'm excited to see what wants to come through today.
Yeah, definitely.
So,
And before I get
thank you.
started, Cathleena is also a fellow co-author in the Awaken Feminine book, which we published beginning of last 2023. So yeah, you can find out more about Cathleena, herself, and another 20 women in there. We all share our stories in there. So Cathleena, um, I've had you on the podcast before a while ago now. And I always ask my guests this question, and I know things change, and this is something that evolves as we experience life more. And that is, what is your current definition of the awakened feminine?
Yeah. Um, well, let's see. I'd say that because I'm much more aligned at this present time with unity consciousness, I think of the awakened feminine really as the divine aspect of the �R𝐢𝐧𝐝 of the masculine and feminine aspects, so the feminine aspect of our being, which is really the emotional part of us as creator beings. We have the masculine aspect is really the blueprint or the mental part, and then the feminine aspect is the emotional or creative creation itself. So that's kind of what I'm really experiencing, and certainly as a female, and working in a lot of different type goddess work, and starting to create groups and circles. And I did a first retreat that I just came back from not long ago, and going to be doing more with women. It does feel like that the awakening of the woman, in the human female, is also really just coming into this beautiful balance of her, divine union with the masculine and her own femininity internally. So instead of having, which we know as being strong women, and certainly women in business and that type of stuff, and what it has been, like an over strength of a woman, very much power and almost like a dominance, right? Because we felt squished, and we felt that we had to do that. It's a man's world, sort of this image, right? But I've learned that that's all part of the false matrix, that keeps the men feeling either diminished or that they need to power over, the female. And so it just continues the game, of what's been playing out. So I feel like that we're really coming into this beautiful union of, the masculine and feminine, the 𝐿𝐴𝐺𝐵𝐾 balance within, certainly as divine women. And I'm recognizing really what I feel the goddess is too in the divine feminine. We have sort of this image of very super feminine woman, and very angelic like, and not to say that we aren't aspects of that, but I'm also recognizing, I think, that the goddess really is what we're representing. It's like sort of like the soft, playful, fun, strong, creative, the businesswoman that isn't business, because we're moving away from that whole model of all of that stuff, and it's much more of that heart centered, but yet there is a profundity, there's an excitement, there's a drive, there's a direction, right? And it's like I'm excited. Yeah. And we can really feel it, right? This is what we're coming in, and you fit right in. Of course, when I see you and I know you and know of you, you're right there as the divine goddess and the, that energetic and what you're creating. And so it's just beautiful. And what we're bringing here, I think we're very much in representation of what I'm talking about. So yeah, it's beautiful.
I love that. And it's funny when you said, when people, especially I find when they first kind of awaken, and women that are quite, quote unquote masculine, like more like that power, strength, push energy, and they awaken, they're like, I need to go into the feminine, and they really do go into that angelic, that really like, feminine. And then it is after, I think, that you kind of go, hang on a second, that also, we were very masculine, but now we're way too feminine. And then it's when you kind of go, all right, we need to come back to center and have them like work together and, really, have that divine union, as you call it. So, Cathleena, when I asked you to fill out the questionnaire, you named this episode, What Does It Mean to Live the Law of One? First of all, I'll probably want to ask you what the Law of One actually means first, before we dive into more about, your journey with it.
Well, when I'm referring to the Law of One, or thinking about it, or really feeling it, it is exactly what we're talking about. It's that 𝐂𝐴𝐴𝐵𝐾 balance of union of all things in harmony together, really is what it is. And what we are coming into is the recognition of that. And through that, I think one of the most important parts, or the part that's coming forward right now, is about relationships. And so, their relationships are a frequency. And so the same relationship that you have with your body, you have with your husband, or with your, with money, whatever, there's a certain frequency. We have the same frequency relationship. And the way in which we have been guided to be in relationships has been in a place of transactional. Everything is transactional. Everything is manipulation. It's, seduction, it's persuasion, right? And even the idea of like marketing, right? It's all about this whole, kind of allure, kind of energetics. And so, what the Law of One and the recognition of unity consciousness is, when we are in pure sovereignty and recognizing the sovereignty in another. And sovereignty means self-governed internally. So if I'm self-governed, I'm not going to take advantage, so to speak, of another, or be taken advantage of. And this is really where we've been playing, and in very subtle, some very obvious ways, and some very more subtle ways. And that's the difference between service to self versus service to humanity. And this is what we are waking up to in bringing into right relationships, all things, and having also like a right relationship with source, with Mother, Father, God, right? With the earth, with all of these types of things. And so this is really, when you talk about, it's sort of in a nutshell, right? About what the Law of One and living as the Law of One and unity consciousness. It's, so how do we do that? It's really about, what is my motivation for anything that I am doing and representing? When we can really go and ask ourselves and take that deep dive internally and say, like, my motivation to come here is authentic in my heart. I want to be here. I'm not, this isn't about, will it have perhaps, people who will get to know me and things like that? Sure. But that's not my driving force. And not to say that in some parts of my life those haven't been, but this is the wake up, right? Is that we're looking at, what am I really doing? And it's that's the difference, because what we don't realize is we unintentionally go against somebody else's sovereignty when we play that game of that seduction and that allure, because we are either allowing them to control us, or we're we're controlling them. It's one or the other. This is sort of game that's being played, and that all of that goes against that true unity and sovereignty, and the idea that, we are all one, but we are all unique within each other. It's not up to me to basically manipulate you into something or be manipulated into something. But this is the whole false matrix game that's been playing out. And this is what we are awakening to, right? Is this idea. And so that's what I recognize as the law of one and what unity consciousness is. And what the beauty of it is, it's how it's so freeing. Like when humanity is looking for freedom, it's like it's so internally freeing, which is where everything is, because everything is internal, right? We think things are out here, but it's really, I always say that the body's everything. This is the millionaire, this is the relationship, everything's right here, because we're energy and frequency having experience through the body. And so whatever this is vibrating as is what we're sending out and coming back. So if I'm in, complete, authentic 0 point or present moment, and I am genuinely here, and I genuinely care, and there's where real freedom is, so that's first and foremost. Of course, then is divine abundance and joy and excitement, because I'm having my authentic experiences based on, me genuinely communicating with all things around me in harmony, in love, in respect, in union and connectedness, right? And gratitude. This is the other piece about unity consciousness. It's about having gratitude for all things, and recognizing that all things are equal and equally as important as, others. And so yeah, it's a really, and it's, like I said, it's a beautiful experience. I'm experiencing it internally myself, and there's this, it's joyful, it's a way that we really can be joyful. So it makes sense to me. But I say that, very heartfelt and lovingly and supportive to others, because I know that, this is why I say this is really easy and really hard at the same time, because of course the easy part is let go and be yourself. The hard part is let go and be yourself. Right? Because we just don't realize how many different influences are around us all the time. And it really is about dropping into that neutral and just recognizing and realizing that I have all the power right here. I can make a decision. It doesn't mean that I don't have thoughts and awareness of different things, but I have a choice of we'll call feminine, my emotional response to it. It's like the idea of, I like to use the example where I could say, oh my God, I don't know where my money's coming from. Or I could go, I don't know. I don't have any idea. And so it's really like we can still have the same idea that I don't know where my money's coming from, but I have a very different response, right? I can either go, oh my gosh, or I can go, oh, I don't know. Right. And that's the key to this recognizing, the law of one and unity consciousness. It's like, wait a minute, how I respond to things is all the difference, and internally. And then, yes, I will make a physical movement towards it. But the first and foremost is right here. What am I doing here? So this is a big piece.
Yes, thank you. And I have to say, you've been on my podcast before. We've spoken outside of podcast before. And you're one of the few people where I talk to, and the whole time that I'm with you, on a call, my body is just like, yep, it's just full feels. It's really quite amazing. There's not anyone else that I talk to where I have this. So yeah, I just love listening to you and talking to you. You say you're a calibrator for your energetic fields. I feel like, it's moving as you're speaking. So it's amazing. It is amazing. Yeah. And I know we've got people watching us live at the moment. So if you've got any questions, you can put them in the chat, or, we can wait a bit later if anyone else, if anyone wants to jump on live. But wow, that is a lot to unpack there. But I want to maybe ask you, just because there might be people that listen to this and go, what is she talking about, false matrix? What is that? Do you mind just sharing that so then people can get a bit more understanding of what you mean?
Well, I'll share a little bit too about myself so that they have a little bit of idea. Like I often say that, I'm not from here, right? I'm actually outside of this 12th dimensional field. So, we on this earth plane, there are dimensional fields. It's ranges of energy that we are. And so there's 12 dimensional fields in which this earth expression is. And the idea of the false matrix is that all of what we see is created, and it's an inverted version of how things are really meant to be. And I'm trying to bring this down into a place. If somebody really doesn't know anything about what I'm talking about, it'll be very confusing to them, the language. So I'm trying to kind of go in the energy and feel. So I like to describe it pretty simply as if you can imagine that, your soul, if you will, we are energy, we are frequency, we are information. And so if your soul is like a library of information, imagine like God, source, is like a giant library of information, and you are a smaller library of the giant library, and that's called your soul. And the way that we engage in a physical reality is we take this information called you. It's basically like the software in a computer, and we download it into the brain. The brain is like the computer, and then we communicate to the body, and think of the body as like a giant mall of people. So I'm either in synergistic communication. What am I doing? And this is important because we are literal creators. We literally create through our thought and our emotion. So every single thought comes out of your head as a geometric shape. And this thought is the blueprint of your creation. It's the masculine. It's basically the paper. Then you add an emotion to your thought. And the emotion is the person in the pencil. So you take a thought, you add an emotion, you hold it 14 seconds or longer, then it moves into what's called the unified field, or the 0 points, a place of all frequencies. Your emotion creates a frequency, a rate at which something moves, and then it goes out in the universe and comes back into reality. So we literally create through our thought and our emotion. And the way that authentic creation is that when I believe it, I see it because I project it. But the false matrix is that there has been something created that you look at, and then you then react to it, instead of you believing something internally and then projecting, because you don't realize that you are the projector, the writer, the director, and the actor of your whole play. You are, right? And so this is kind of this idea. And how is this false matrix created? It's created, again, by belief systems. So say when you come into the world as a child, you come in and everything's brand new and you have no awareness of anything. But you don't realize that we, of course, we're looking through our eyes and we hear our ears and we sensations and so on. So we have our regular five senses, but all of those five senses put together is your sixth sense, which is your intuition. And that is extremely heightened. It's heightened in anybody, but certainly as a child, we have all of these ways we're taking in information. And so, as a child, you're coming in to this reality kind of in your pure essence. And then, as soon as you begin to hear things or notice things around you, then you become something. And so this is this idea of what we'll hear the term quantum entanglement. And quantum entanglement means that things are engaged together. But in this way that I'm describing it, quantum entanglement is when I forget that I'm really source consciousness having an experience called Cathleena, and I become Cathleena instead. Who have I become? And that becoming of something is happened because there is what's called a false matrix that has told us what we can and can't do. And so the examples would be, say, and this is how it'll play out. Say I'm a little girl and I'm playing in the dirt, and I'm just having a good time. And somebody comes along and says, a girl doesn't do that. And I suddenly stop and I change. And what if I stiffen up and I shift my energy? Well, then what happens is literally an aspect of myself. So like my library of information, one of my books leaves and it gets imprinted over here, and it gets imprinted with this belief system that I now have to be stiff, right? Or something like that. And so now when I go, as I'm growing up, and I go to make decisions that, because remember, this was about freedom. If I'm a little girl and I'm just free, having a good time, and somebody says, you don't do that. Now I'm taking freedom and I'm making it stiff, right? So now freedom doesn't exist. It's stiff, right? So if I go to pick a career, like something that I want to do in my life, I'm going to pick something practical, not something that's going to be freeing and of my spirit, because I've got that imprint now that of who I am. Okay. So this is this idea of the false matrix. This is all what I do on my website, is I release, these imprints and help people. But these are these kind of things. And so again, this sounds complicated, but sort of simply, it's like when you can go in your own heart and remember and start to discover who you are, which is what we started talking about the law of one, and really your own relationship, my relationship with myself, my body, who am I? And I become brave enough to just show up as me, despite all of the stories and all the ways that I'm told I'm supposed to be. Then I'm being authentic to myself, and then I'm breaking through that false matrix. Because and so why is this even here? Well, whether people believe it or not, and I don't know how much your audience knows about anything, but there are beings on this planet that have been here for eons of time, and they don't create. And so they've convinced us to create for them. And this is what's been happening. And so we've been playing out major frequencies. We're playing out enslavement, imprisonment, and sacrifice. So we've enslaved ourselves in the belief systems and the limits and limitations. We're imprisoning ourselves within our mind. And then we sacrifice health for money until we don't, because we've been convinced somehow to bring in all these characters of our life that are, the mother, the father, the whatever, that have been judging us, and we bring them into our head, and they're standing there 24/7 judging us, and we're reacting to them in the privacy of our own home until we're not. And so this is really what it is. It's like waking up to, what am I doing? That's why this is super easy and super hard at the same time. So the simplistic part is like, just, in the privacy of your own home, in your own space, what are you doing? Right. And I always say, it's like, it's all about getting present, because we're in what I call is the false presence instead of the authentic. So the authentic presence is, I got my feet on the floor, I'm looking out my eyes, I'm literally in my room. The false presence is, I got my feet on the floor, I'm looking out my eyes, but I'm in my head. And that's the thing, is this is this matrix that's been guided us to be in our heads and thinking, and what we don't realize, remember, your thought and your emotion is creating, and the emotion is the most important part. So if I've been trained to be in my head and I'm constantly perpetuating these thoughts and I'm creating an emotion of anxiousness when I'm all by myself, then that's what I'm continuing to create in my reality. But if I can, even with that thought, that's why I said about the money, right? Even if I say, I don't know where my money is, but if I don't attach the anxiousness and all in the privacy of my own home, I'm now giving the opportunity to create something different. And it will, because we're energy and frequency. We're just really waking up to who we really are. And so, this is what I'm here for. I'm one of the beings. I'm, like I said, not from here, and I'm, had many, many, many lifetimes. And so this is part of what I'm here to help, have people wake up and recognize. That's why you feel it, because what the my library of information contains is a calibrator, that is literally adjusting your frequency to the 0 point. And that's what's happening. So I'm not just arbitrarily talking. There's a lot of energy, which you're already feeling. Of course, that's going on, and this is not unique to me. It's just, I'm just helping you get to know you and drop into that 0 point. And here's the masterful, wonderful thing about the 0 point, or literally the present moment, is that we are one with everything when we are in that present moment. And because we're creator beings, if you think about that, if you can drop into the literal present moment with innocence, with joy, with fun, because we're just kids on the playground, and then you get excited about what you're feeling, now you are a conscious creator of your own reality through this excitement energy, instead of this like, energy, right? And even if you don't get this, it doesn't matter. Everyone's getting this on some level. I know it. I just know what the energy is, and I know who we are. So I encourage people, if this seems foreign, let the brain take a break and just feel, the energy that's being brought, because you really want to think about this very simply as, imagine you're a little kid on the playground, and if you had no awareness of anything, and you're a little kid on the playground, and literally there's no parents around, there's no influence of anything, there's just little kids with you playing around, you would just explore and play and do whatever. And this is really the idea. If you can imagine, that's really what life, and if you can let yourself feel that, this is, and notice why you don't feel it. That's the first thing. Why am I not able to be in that just total freedom? Those are the keys that you'll start to notice, that what is kind of in my way, so to speak, what am I aligning to? And you'll be able to start to shift those, because everything is energy and frequency, your clothes, your room, everything. So if you're just in the privacy of your own room and you're imagining this scenario of just being this little kid, just free, and you're not able to totally let go, just take some breaths and start to notice. And maybe it's, you got too much stuff around you in your room, or maybe, you're feeling the space that you're in is just not good, or maybe I need to be outside. You'll start to notice little things to be able to help you get to know who you are, and how you've been creating things around you that are just causing you to feel more of what you don't want. There's a lot in what I'm bringing in.
Yes, and I'm feeling all of it. I love it.
Yeah.
It's funny because I usually just get questions drop in, and I'm just listening to you, and I'm feeling all of it, and I am getting questions drop in, but I just feel like you explain things so well that like you said, even if you don't know any of it, you'll be able to feel it, because I'm certainly feeling it. And just come, like, listening to this with an open mind. If you have got to this point in the podcast and you're like, what is going on, just stop, go away, come back, and then just relax your mind and go, okay, I'm open to receive. Because a lot of times when, like you say, is the false matrix, right? Your belief system is like, nah, that is false. That's not for me. You're not going to receive at all, and you're just going to keep having those same thoughts, when it's probably things that you need to hear to get to your truth, and that childlike curiosity that we all remind people to go back to, but when we're adults, it's something that kind of goes out the window, unfortunately. Yeah.
Because we get into a persona, that's what happens, is that we, and I will say to everybody that in this particular energy, your brain might feel scrambled. Just let it, because that's what happens. If you are somebody who's very mental energy right now, you're probably not going to be able to be very focused, and that's okay. Just let that happen. It's because you're getting pushed out of any persona energy that you're playing out, any character roles. And it might feel very uncomfortable, because it's a super place of vulnerability. We become kind of like, oh wait, I'm not functioning in the way I'm normally functioning, or whatever. And the more we just allow it, the easier it will become.
There's a lot of questions that's come through, so I'm going
Yeah,
to
that's
read
okay.
them first because I don't want to leave them all to the end. So we've got Kim, hi, beautiful souls. Tanya, so
Sure.
isn't the idea of seduction imprinted in us to build the family? Can you talk a bit more to this?
To build a family. I'm not sure what is really being asked there. I guess I'll explain what I mean by seduction is, seducing somebody into being with me or connecting with me. And yes, I guess, part of the false matrix, certainly, the woman to the man aspect relationship, or women to women, whoever, there is that sort of allure energy in, relationships, and that whole sexual, and that is part of the false matrix, because um, sex and sexuality is actually our creative center, the womb center. And men have a womb center too. When we have a physical womb as a woman, but there is an energetic womb center that men have. And that is our creative energy, is through the sexual energy. And so this has been very much manipulated and confused on the planet. So I'd say yes, in the way that it is part of the false matrix, that allure and that seduction has been part of, getting the partner and all of that kind of stuff. But that is what I'm saying, that's one of the issues, because when you do it from that perspective, it's a game, right? Instead of just simply allowing yourself to be you. It's a very different expression when there is genuine attraction and chemistry that, right, you feel with each other, versus the sexual pop. And I think that's often why, you can have relationships that are super sexual, and then they're just like not anything that you want, and people end up getting married in those relationships. And it's always, and that's why I said, this is what we're coming into, is authentic relationships, instead of it being, one is empowered and one is disempowered, and vice versa. And I watch relationships do that all the time. We're going to start seeing authentic sovereign relationships coming into play. And so during this time, this is why so many people are breaking up. Different people, many people are single. I've personally been single for 8 years now, specifically for this reason, and coming into different divine union. So, and I think that, if I answered that correctly, this is a beautiful topic to talk about in terms of relationships, because yes, and it's very different when we, especially as women, we're taught to be the seductress, and then to seduce the man, and then being again, that's all that game, and and then you have to live up to it, and all of the the distortions in relationship to it. So yes, I think when we can eliminate that and just come into our heart and feel, this is what we're teaching, what the difference is between authentic, sex and sexuality and communication, love, passion, compassion, these types of things, versus the energy, because that raw sexual energy is all part of the false matrix. It, from an energetic perspective, it actually depletes the person. Think about that. When you have that type of drive and you have the energy, and then you act on whatever, then there's a depletion. But if in retrospect, if you're in a very different energy, and it is, the authentic love and creative energy, it's uplifting, it's embracive, and imagine, having that act, if you're a woman with a man, and having a baby, in one that is a pure loving expression than just the sexual expression that you get pregnant. You just imagine the difference in the energetics that's brought through, and for the child itself. And this is again what we're coming into, so it's really, wanting to wake up. So that's a whole other conversation and topics to bring in, but that was, I think I answered a lot of that.
Yeah. You definitely answered that question really well. Thank you for sharing that. Okay, the next one is from
Good.
Annie. I have had several sessions with Cathleena and listened to her wisdom and feel her high frequency during the shows where she appears. Thank you for having her. You're welcome, Annie. Thank you for being here. Cathleena, do you feel the orchestrators of the False Matrix have really ramped up their campaign the last several days, weeks? I'm reeling a bit and having a hard time separating myself from some of my old programs I thought I had released.
Yes, we are at a like crescendo aspect of a lot of the false matrix. Absolutely, because you have to. All the darkness has to come up to shine the light upon it. And so, yes, it's kind of like almost like last ditch efforts to keep humanity from waking up, from staying enslaved in the programming. But it's getting ridiculous because I mean, when you're seeing things now, it's like, wow, it's just so obvious, some of the things that are going on. And yes, in your own personal, that is what's happening. I mean, I've experienced it myself, that anything that needs to come up is going to come up. And what I encourage you is practice what I'm saying. Drop into that neutrality. You know what it is? It's the deepest, most wonderful practice of self-love. So it's like, what do you need? What's going on? And just really love her as much as you can. That's what it is. And so when we say we're reeling with things and we can't handle it, it's like, well, that's because those parts of yourself are the ones that are feeling it. That's what we'll call a trigger. And I like to use awaken to trigger now. This has been pointed out to me as well, that because it's a more gentle expression. But, these things are becoming awakened inside of you, and they are literally, most likely from this lifetime. It can be other lifetimes, but aspects of self that froze at a certain developmental phase in your existence. And so those parts of self are the ones that are feeling it, this like, ooh, I'm feeling, nervous or financial, whatever, and so it's a certain part of self that didn't, grow to this you that's present. It's like a younger version. And so that part is awakening. So what we want to do is imagine that, like a child or a younger person suddenly is standing there, and you want to be the most amazing parent that you can be to that child. And to me, what that is just simply holding space for that child to have the emotions that they need to have. And so that's what it is. It's allowing yourself to just cry or do whatever, in the privacy of your own home and where you are, as you are supporting that. And what's helpful is to remind yourself that, to be both. Okay, my adult me knows I'm good, I'm right here, I'm comfortable, I'm safe, I'm happy, as those other parts of self are figuring out, what am I really feeling? Okay, so it's like we got to have two of us, at the same time. And it's that self-love. That's how we can just come into that, drop in. And that's how we can disengage from the emotional part of whatever we feel is our actual reality. And again, the example, I might not know where my money's coming from, but I don't have to engage in the fearful part. I can just simply be, in presence. And then I can choose when it's appropriate, when I can actually physically do something or need to do something about it, to engage that thought, instead of 24/7 haunting that thought with me with all sorts of emotion, dominating my existence, so I never can rest and can't have fun and can't, it will get more masterful at those types of things as we drop into that neutrality. But yes, everything is definitely coming up. And so it is, I think the more practice you can have about really being present, just getting very, very present, it makes it a lot easier. Okay. Just a lot will continue to come up.
Thank you. We've got a question from Nat. Is there a message or transmission that may help with releasing fear or greed imprint?
Yeah, wow, that's an interesting. I'll do an activation at some point with us here that we can work with some of that energy.
Mm,
So
thank
I'll
you.
offer that. Not right the moment, but I will.
Thank you. And then
Sure.
we've just got Catherine and he's saying that, they're feeling that experience of, things ramping up. And he's like, I just took a shower to help get out of my head. So, thank you. Um, okay, I'll just do one more question and then we'll go back. So the next question is from Tanya. So as we are all one, there shouldn't be difference between man and woman the way we have it here and now. So
Is
that's
that
the
that's a question?
yeah. So the question is, let me rephrase it. So since we are one, like there's difference between men and women. So in our current world, we look different. We're completely different. But should we, if we're one, should we not be different? I think that's the question. So as we are all one, there shouldn't be difference between men and women. Yeah, in the way
Well,
we have it here. Yeah.
yeah. Well, I think that's a lot. There's a lot in that. So the law of one really recognizes that you know everything is connected. We are all in this giant matrix together. Everything, all things, everything is, but we are unique within it. So it's kind of the idea of I am the droplet of water and the ocean at the same time without separation. So that's what I am. We are in a free will zone. The earth experience is a duality experience. And in order to have creation itself, we need to have some type of duality, or else there wouldn't be anything to create. It would simply just be expansion all the time. It would be constant expansion, right? So there needs to be some type of duality. And on this earth, the duality aspect is the masculine and feminine. But the masculine and feminine, if you think about it, what the masculine energy is mental. It is the blueprint. It is the light portion of who we are. So we are light, sound, and water or plasma in order to be in a physicality, but we are light and sound as prime creators. So light is masculine, sound is feminine. And it's in order to create. It's who we are, right? And so in like I said, as a physical being, the light portion or the mental mind portion of who we are is the blueprint. So it's a blueprint of ourself. So and then the feminine aspect of ourselves is the emotional, or it's the movement. It is what creates it. So you have something that you think about in order to create. That's the masculine aspect. And then you give it life and movement, which is the sound aspect, which is the feminine, to create. So when you're talking about men and women, biologically, of course, the male comes in as the more blueprint version and then incorporates the feminine, which is often why you see men can be much more emotional than women can be at times, but they have a very strong structure, a very strong structural energy. And the female woman, has we have a fluid, even physicality, right? Because the feminine aspect of creation is more fluid. It's why we're shaped kind of the way that we are. And then we have a mental component, which is again the blueprint of what we're coming in. So it's just kind of different, and we're beginning to recognize what those are. But each human has masculine and feminine, and where we've been how it's been separated, and this whole thing about even like women's rights and men, all this kind of stuff is all part of the matrix, because that just keeps the one individual separate, right? Because we need to be balanced within first and foremost, right? And then there is outward, right? And And so that's why we're going to start to see this very differently, of all of our definitions. That's why we have to kind of throw out all the definitions. The defining of all of these things is what's the matrix. It's in the way. When we can define, because really what we are is we are galactic royalty. We're made up of, our DNA is literally made up of, I think it's 23 or 28 different species, different galactic energies. And these galactic energies have frequencies and signatures and different things to them. And that's really who we are, whether we're masculine, feminine, woman, man, whatever. We have a lot of different things. Like I have, I'm Arcturian, Andromedan, I've got Syrian, I've got, lots of different, and, just energetic and all different things that, we all have. And I don't want to get too complicated, but it's very different than what we have been told, So again, that's kind of a big question. But I think I've opened up a lot of energy. It's interesting because the things that are coming forward in this podcast are really pretty broad, pretty wide, which is really pretty amazing. So I think there's going to be a lot of shifting. I really hope that a lot of people get opportunity to step into this, because there's so much energetics that are coming in, different from even from what I'm typically asked, and even what typically wants to come through me right now is a lot of information and things are coming through. So I think that this is going to be very profound for many people.
Yeah. Thank you.
A lot of information coming through.
Thank you. I think that was the last question. So thank you everyone in the chat. If you've got more questions, keep them coming. So Cathleena, this question has been, waiting for me to ask you. And it's, how did you discover the law of one? Like, how did you discover that that's the way to move forward in your life? Or was it something that you kind of always known, when you were born, like, you came through remembering, or you had to kind of rediscover it in your life?
It's been it's the reason that I'm here. I think it's the reason that we're all here in this lifetime, is to remember this, that this is what we've forgotten, the law of one. And for my personal journey, I think, like I like to describe, I came in the world I had a lot of interesting things that took place, but it was a very, very challenging lifetime, and, a lot of different things that were taking place. And so all of which drove me towards this awareness, and I think that's really what we're all here for. We're really all here to remember that we are all one, and what unity consciousness is, because this has been the game, has been the separation. We've been playing in the game of inorganic power and inorganic vulnerability, which is inorganic power is something greater or less than something else. Organic power is there's nothing greater than that I am, because I'm source consciousness. Inorganic vulnerability is a weakness or a fear. Organic vulnerability is, it is what it is, I am what I am. So I think for myself, I was driven towards, that there's nothing greater than that I am. It is what it is, I am what I am, out of sheer, I couldn't do anything else, because, no matter how I turned, there was always something wrong. You're too much this, you're not enough that, you can't do this. But it was just like always, it was so much of this in my lifetime that I just came into that ultimate place of saying, I can't take it anymore. So I have to surrender into it, and just dropping out of what anybody else thought and anybody else. And just, I always joke about it. I say, I understood much more of the galactic self, but I didn't know how to wear this human suit. It was like, what is this? And I think that's what led me really to recognize unity consciousness, is putting on this human suit, because humans are challenging. I mean, it's like super challenging, it's like very confusing, and And if if you spend your whole life being a chameleon and changing, which we all keep doing all the time, then it's exhausting. And it's so yeah, I think it's extremely freeing to just let go, and really I say that it came to my controversial moment, which my controversial is when I say it's like suicide, but it's not suicide, obviously killing yourself, but it's like that level of surrender where you're just like, okay, I can't take it anymore. And then you let go. And that's suddenly when you realize, wow, it's so much easier to just let go. And then it's always been very natural for me too, to like, I love animals. I've always loved nature. I'm very connected, and even like the bugs, I never want to kill anything. I've never felt that. And I always say my superpower is I'm truthful to a default. I mean, that is my part of my soul signature, is that I'm divine truth. I carry that. And so, but I didn't understand why other people weren't. And I was just super naive and just, but I had a certain look, I had a certain persona and energy. So people would read me. I was constantly, so it was just, it's been my journey to just let go. That's how I've really discovered it more and more, and notice, because I started to notice myself, like what was I doing? Was I playing the game? And I never wanted to play the game. Like I knew inside myself, I feel that I could create a movement, and I think now is the time, because it is about the law of one. But I would never have stepped into it until this level of clarity, because it would have been playing in some type of game, and which is what a lot of people are doing and have done, to in the sort of guru aspect that we are completely moving away from now. And there's no judgment in that, because I don't think that people necessarily, I mean, some maybe knew what they were doing that way, but I think many people, it's just the way that it's been. It's what we've been taught. We've been taught to find our uniqueness outside of ourselves, which makes us separate. But when we realize we are unique, I mean, that's what I'm saying. Each one of us is an absolute unique aspect of Prime Creator. Your library of information is unique. There is no one that has the library that you have. No one. We all are very unique, but we're all in the giant library together. And so your information is needed to me, and I'm to you. And this is what we're discovering. We're all needing to because we all have a little piece of the puzzle, and just giving it all to each other to wake up. And it's fun and it's exciting, when we can come from that perspective, instead of like, I gotta, find my niche and separate and all that. That's all part of the game. That's the game. No, you don't. When you find it from your heart, when you find it, that's what I've done. This is how I discovered who I am, I literally went in my own heart and said, what's in you? And I remember some of the first things for myself was like, I started realizing, I would say to myself, wow, I really do care. I do care. Yes, I do. Because you have people that tell you things all the time, and all of their expressions, because there's so much jealousy. People want you to be strong, but then they don't want you to be too strong, and they don't want you to be this. And they want, because everybody's trying to find their way. So that's why we have to drop into neutrality with compassion, with our hearts open. And the thing is, when we're in that neutrality, because everything's frequency and energy, then we're vibrating, which I'm doing. I'm vibrating at the 0 point. So I am vibrating as pure source consciousness with you. That's what you're feeling. That's what you're recognizing. And in that, no other frequency can sustain itself. So anything that isn't that goes away. So either people will move with it and, stay in the energy with it and let it move away, or they'll physically move out of the energy because they can't handle it anymore. But it's, so this is what we're remembering, is that this is what we're here for. We're literally here to show up as the highest frequency, as pure Prime Creator in physical form, so that you're vibrating. And that's what I'm doing. So no matter where I go, I'm representing it. And so and what am I doing? I'm representing the opportunity for everybody else to drop into this neutral and become themselves. And then what an amazing world we'd have. Right?
Oh,
It's beautiful.
I am waiting for the day when we can all do that. It would be a very beautiful world.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I would just love to be in real life in your presence and just, oh gosh, that would be so amazing. That's one of my goals, is to meet all my podcast guests and all my authors in real life, so that, we are meeting at some point in person.
Yeah. 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 I love that. Well, I'm sure that that'll happen.
Yeah. So, Cathleena, for people listening, who, even whether they know about this, or the things you've talked about or not, I think people always have trouble dropping in. That's just something that is very hard, or they do drop in and they're like, I don't think that was right, or that's the right message that I'm receiving. Can you share some tips that people can use to, like, just drop in and just surrender and come back to that neutrality?
Yeah. Well, I always say it's very simple, and this is why we bypass it, because it really is simple. And for those that are interested, on my website, I wrote a small book. It's called The Pocket Guide to Presence. It's an ebook. It's $4. And it has pictures and colors about getting and staying present that are in their energy that's in it. And some of the techniques in there are like, you wake up in the morning and your head starts taking off in your day, and you bring yourself back and you ask yourself, what am I wearing? Why did I choose this? What color is it? And then your head takes off again. You bring yourself back. And so it's really that simplistic practice of noticing, okay, why am I doing what I'm doing? Feeling your feet on the floor. What am I standing on? What am I doing? Because we're so robotic, in different things. And so this is really the most important practice, because like I said before, everything is frequency and energy. And all we're doing in human existence is matching frequencies in order to be comfortable. And think of frequencies simply as emotions. And by universal law, faster moving frequencies always try to raise slower ones up to match them. So the example would be like, if you and I come around each other and I'm happy and you're mad, what's going to happen is I'm going to irritate you, because I'm vibrating at a faster rate and because my happy is trying to raise you up. So as long as I stay happy, you only have two choices. You either get happy with me or you go away. And so, we begin to notice, like I pick my clothes by what I feel. I felt green today. I was like, okay, so I want to be in this energy. This is a heart. This is the connectedness. This is earth. And so I just felt it. And also, when I woke up my own self, and one of the reasons that it's difficult to even like go into meditations and be in that quiet space is because we don't recognize that the space that we're in maybe doesn't provide for that. And so, when I was first like waking up to my space, I realized that nothing in my space was me. I mean, this was many, many years ago, but I had all these hand-me-down things that I was given from people, and I didn't even know what I liked or didn't like. If somebody asked me what was my favorite color, I'd say, I don't know. I didn't even have any awareness, because, when I grew up, I didn't have anything. So whatever I received, and I was okay with it, but you don't realize that things have energy to them. And so we need to feel them. We need to say, what, is the space that I'm in? What does it feel like? What is happening to me when I'm in wherever I am? And so, these are just really important things. And so, we got a big old storm here. I just had a flash that came in. That was interesting. I don't know if you saw it, but a big flash of lightning just sort of came into the room. There's a lot of energy here. Yeah. But so, I'd say that practicing it. So what I like to do is in the morning before I get out of bed, I purposely keep myself there, and I lay in the bed and I check in my body. and I don't get up until I'm relaxed and I can feel. And of course, I have practices that I move energies and do different things. But even just the average person, just notice, like, take some breaths, give yourself permission, relax in just for a few minutes so that you can allow yourself to step forward. It's about embodying yourself. We don't do that. We don't give ourselves permission. I mean, I realized for years, I felt like I'm hovering over my bed. I'm just like this. I'm never fully resting into the bed. And so, I had to practice. It takes practice, because what we're talking about here is mastering the mind. And that's really what it is. And the mastery of the mind is when I am the master of my emotional response to what shows up in my mind, in my head. Okay. Because like I said, we might not be able to stop the different thoughts on it, but I have a choice of my emotional response to them, and so when I can, have the idea that, okay, I don't know where my money's coming from, but I'm not responding in an anxious way 24/7, I'm beginning to master my mind. And that this is a huge key about your own level of manifestation and your own level of being able to be in, like, go deeper into meditation and things like that, and it just takes a practice. We have to have a willingness. We have to notice that we are creating this and we have a choice. We also have to notice what we're addicted to and what we are, I've told the story before that, I used to wake up in the morning and hear, you're such a failure. And I was like racing around trying to get things done. And I woke up one morning, and the practice is, you want to start to notice, what is my thought? What is my emotion? And more importantly, what is it doing to this body? Because remember, the body's everything, right? So I woke up one morning and I started to notice, okay, I got the thought, I'm such a failure. And I felt the emotion, and I realized there was some comfort in this. And I was like, oh, well, that's interesting. Didn't judge it. I just noticed it, that I was comfortable dialoguing that I was a failure. I was like, well, that's interesting. So now that I have the authentic emotion that I'm creating, now I can say, do I want that anymore? And I was like, no. So now, next day I wake up, it's still there, but now I can say, you know what? I might not know what success is, but I know I don't want to feel this. That's the moment I disengage from that emotional response. I'm dropped into the unknown. I'm in my heart space. Now I'm not my mind, I'm in my heart space. But we're not taught to be in the unknown. We're taught to be in the known. So what began to happen for me is I started to say, well, what really is failure? And what really is success? And whose voice is this anyway? And what am I doing to myself? And so this is when you start to really wake yourself up about, like, why am I torturing? What am I doing? And that this is the key to you starting to recognize, like, what is my story? And it gets bigger, you start to notice things like when you're around other people, you start to notice, I'm in my head and I'm making judgments and I'm feeling uncomfortable. And why am I doing that? Because this is in my head. What's happening to me? So you get, you just start noticing more, and it'll begin to wake up more things in yourself. I literally have practices before like in this arena, this is very easy because I'm always in, the 0 point, and I pretty much live in the 0 point. But when I'm doing something social, or especially like a date, I purposely will like sit in my car and really drop myself out of my head. So there's no thought. And I'm really in that brand new moment, and I practice that, so that as I'm walking up towards the door or something, I'm continually taking breaths and dropping out of my thought, because we don't realize how quick that is. We live in our heads. We're sizing things up all the time. We're guarding, because we're so programmed to be a certain persona that, it just takes to wake ourselves up and just notice, like, okay, what am I going to do? Let me take a breath. Let me drop out. And it's a practice. So be gentle, be loving. Just remember, that it's a loving practice, and it's how much, remember, it's all about self-love. It's how much am I going to love her and let her just show up? That's it. It's really
Thank you. Oh, that's beautiful. Yeah. This question popped in as you were talking. You had the thought, oh, I'm a
Mm-hmm.
failure. And then you said later on, is that
Mm-hmm.
whose voice is that? Is that mine? So are our thoughts coming from inside, or are they kind of flying into our head?
Yeah. Well, I think that that's a great thing because it is um it can be both actually, and even your own thoughts can be characters. So it's not even you, it's other characters. It's the parents or the whatever that are you brought into your head that are communicating to you and you're listening to them. I believe that our own thoughts, in that case, something like that, we don't have them necessarily, because if we're literally in the present moment, it's brand new, we're not going to have a preconceived anything about it. So I think anytime we have something that's preconceived, it's not us. It's not our authentic self. It's not. And I think that's a good indicator, right? Because if it's new to me, it's new to me.
I just love that
I
when you
really think it's
talked,
that simple.
the thunder just came when you were answering that question.
Yeah. It's a
Yeah.
huge storm going on out here. It's really interesting.
Uh, I feel like the
Yeah.
frequency that you've created is so high because my internet is usually really good, but for some reason today it's like, I can see my upload and I'm like, 22% is been consistently at 22% and usually is at 99%. So I'm like, what is going on? I'm like, it's Cathleena.
Yeah, it's exactly. There's so much energy here. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And we can do an activation, which will even elevate the energy more if you're interested.
Oh, yes, anything from you, I am interested. So
Yes.
please, if you feel called to do it, yes, please, thank you.
Yes, I do. And I think I think it's a good time to step into, an activation. So let's just open up the energy here and move some of the things that we talked about to be able to expand this a little bit wider into the law of one. So if anybody who is here listening, if you want to close your eyes and take some deep breaths, you can close your eyes and take some deep breaths. And for those that don't know, I make a lot of sounds. I do a lot of weird things. So just kind of go with it. Okay. I don't have an ability to change the sound, but hopefully you'll get all the nuances here. Okay, hostinkiitoni poppidiokosinisarakatatata omi positiokosihtarakatitokoma poshiniovirakalematitugi apapo oesataina akanitumi papon. Sarekatuushia laka aposhimilituniukonele lakatatutuishisa nikoshimilapuin alakosita talakatita komita kosishishishumi sushumira bokonimatakalaposhikalamakatam. Amokuti ese ino chimera pakotala kati ishum. Asani geto to jimera popapa ene kombatala kati ishum metala eketa akan. Asani geto ishum metala kito to metala kametro komasira la kana. Asuri kita da kosimera bakota da kas. Ila kata tutumi sila. Esu kosimera po papakita la kon ea sari nukum. Bata kosite ta ko imbata poko mata la kanai etera kan kaha ala katitu kui shitatin. Iso kome papapakoni bata tui. Asara kita da osibeti ela kanen batu yesu kosita la kan tutututu yesane kendema. Take some deep breaths. Sikita delegan. Popopokum. Padekata la kanda moshimel katos. Kasa. Mama papa kanya tuti matkoni mertala. Shoo. Kama stikto kim batare kotila kanda mastumam. And open up the portals in your feet, allowing you to root and ground into the crystalline core of 𝐿𝐴. So I'm opening the crown to Prime Creator, as above is below, as below is above. I'm going to expand the energy 360 degrees. Severing all contracts and agreements, seen and unseen, known and unknown. To forget who I am, to play small, to be afraid at all, to play any games of fear, to be in any places that align me to the fear matrix, which would keep me in the false matrix of the money game, the greed, the separation, frequencies and energies. We're going to sever these contracts and agreements with absolute sovereignty and divine forgiveness. Forgive me, forgive you, love me, love you. Compassion for me, compassion for you, gratitude for me, gratitude for you. Take a deep breath. I'm going to pull out of the solar plexus. I'm just going to pull up and out this identification of self that is attached to the false money frequency of in the greed frequency, what attaches is the place that there isn't enough, So we're going to pull that out. And I'm going to bring in underneath it, I'm going to drop into the solar plexus a ball of very bright, bright golden light. This is the central sun. And we're going to drop in divine abundance, authentic abundance. I'm going to drop that right into that sacral, and I'm going to expand that. I'm going to let that go all the way up into the solar plexus, heart, throat, pineal, crown, and the soul star up and out. So we're just aligning authentic abundance, remembering authentic abundance, bringing right relationship with the frequency of gold. Gold is a consciousness. It's a very innocent consciousness. We're bringing that into, there we go, within the physical body. And I'm going to open up the root into the earth. I'm going to drop you into the crystalline core, calibrating, integrating all elements, earth, fire, air, water, ether, and the diamond blue plasmic flame, the sixth element to all aspects of self, mental, physical, spiritual, etheric. Calibrating, integrating the quantum level of the carbon DNA to the crystalline DNA, to the original human genome, the original human blueprint, the I am presence. So we're just going to calibrate this out with this beautiful ball of divine abundance so that you all begin to feel the greater aspect of who you are and your divine birthright of divine abundance, as we are all one. So as you continue to let go and be who you are, divine abundance is your birthright. We are one. To continue to follow your heart. And I'm correcting the false matrix inverted communication system where the mind has been communicating to the heart, and now the heart is going to communicate to the mind and the brain. We're also going to change the senses from the mind to the heart. Eyes, ears, taste, touch, smell, coming through the heart space now. It is done, it is so, it is done, it is so. I am free, I am free, I am free, I am that. Take deep breaths, and we're just going to let out of the physical brain. We're just going to imagine little particles floating up out of the brain, just information. We're going to float out any limits, limitations, judgments, worthiness programs, fear programs, anything that is creating the fear matrix to be engaged, just letting that float out. Out of the head, the hair, the skull, just letting it all go. Just imagine floating out, just like Alka-Seltzer floating up, out, transmuting that back to Prime Creator. There we go. Just letting it all go. Floating out. I'm going to bring in a very high frequency diamond white light into the body. We're going to drop it into the bones. This is the Christed body. This is the highest form of you and physicality. So all the bones becoming bright, bright white. And we're going to line that with the crystalline grid network of Sophia Gaius, who's opening this up. Taking a deep breath. There's several of you that are really struggling with this, so I just want you to open your energy, just letting go. Just letting go of the mind. There we go. Deep breath. Several contracts and agreements to any of the mind matrix, any of the MK Ultra mind control, holographic inserts, consciousness traps, supersoul timeline loops, any 5G sonic frequencies, code for viral frequencies, any of the victimizer frequencies. There we go, just letting all that go. Past, present, and future, and all space-time continuum from my conscious, subconscious, and cellular. Beautiful. Okay, I'm going to bring this calibration into this present moment. As your crown is completely open to Prime Creator, your roots into Sophia Gaia, as above, as below, as below, as above. Begin to imagine energetic roots coming out your legs, out your feet, wrapping around the crystalline core of the earth. And so you're going to bring this calibration into the present moment, just clearing through your central channel. Okay. Whew. All right, when you're ready, you can open your eyes. Tell me how you feel.
Wow. That was amazing. And you got to a certain part and it cut out on my end because my internet decided to just play up. And I was like, what is happening? But I just came back in straight away. But oh my gosh, what a treat. What a treat. Thank you. Thank you so much for that beautiful, beautiful activation. Whew. Yeah.
Yeah, it was being recorded, so don't worry. You're in the energetic, so yeah.
Yeah.
You didn't miss anything.
Yeah. I can't even express to you how, yeah, how grateful I feel for that, and just how amazing that just felt. I was just totally relaxed, and
Yeah.
I was shaking at some point. So that was really, thank you for that beautiful gift for us, for this podcast.
Yeah.
I'm just looking at the time, and
Mhm.
we've got people in the chat saying thank you, to you. That was great. And it's just amazing. Um, before we wrap up, is there anything you would like our audience to take home with them from this conversation that we've had? Or is there anything that you haven't expressed yet during our podcast that you would like them to take home with them?
Well, I think what is important to take is that, um, you know, I am a representation of you. So what you see in me is in you, and that, um, you know, this is a lot simpler than we make it if we let our hearts lead us and we are able to be playful, even no matter what seems to be going on. If we can have that faith, trust, and surrender that we are here for a purpose, where we are taken care of. If we can begin to have this image in our head that, there are these amazing divine parents that we have, that really love us, and that we are here, and they are supporting us. If you can have that as your image, in your heart, it can make it easier to let go and just experience life. And, you know, to try to keep that simple, the experience, nobody can take that away, right? It doesn't matter what's going on in the physicality in terms of what I experience, right? I can do that. And this is the most powerful thing. You have the power within you to create really the life that you desire authentically through your own, feeling about it. And if I could really emphasize anything, that's, I think, the thing to take home. Start to take that seriously. We bypass this body. We bypass ourselves. We've been convinced to sit in anxieties and frustrations and so on. And that's that sacrificial aspect that we do until we don't. So you have nothing to lose to love her, to love this body, and I've gotten to point so much that when I say I loved you so much, and I love this body, I'm saying it to all of me, all of the little me's. I can see the tiny little me, the next stage, and that's who I'm talking to. And I can feel those parts. I can, it's not just like an image, like literally like a little girl, and you're loving her because we've forgotten that, or if there's men here, him, and this is, I think, just the key. So if we can take anything away from what we have here, keep it super simple and realize that simplistic is the most profound. It took me a long time to really learn this, because I knew this as a child, but it's one of the reasons it took me a long time to start talking about it, because I thought everybody knows this. This is so simple. But I realized they don't, and we bypass it. So it's really so profound. It's one of the most profound things. So I'd say that's what I hope to take away. And re-listen, and definitely step into the activation. That particular activation was pure prime creator, with so much love coming in and just really being there and supportive, and dropping in that divine abundance that is absolutely your birthright. One thing we're not taught is that when we make a decision to come to this earth plane, we bring with us all resources that we would ever need. And they show up when we show up as ourself. When you step into, you notice, and I'm sure you know this, Kaki, when you step into your life plan, what's meant for you, everything falls in place, right? Doesn't it? I mean, that's how it works. Things begin to just naturally come in. But it's being brave enough, right? Brave enough to do what? To be ourselves, to have fun. We have been so guided away from that. But I'm here to guide you back towards it.
Yes. Thank you so much, Cathleena. That is such a beautiful take-home message for everyone listening right here live, or when you catch us on Apple, Spotify, YouTube. If people want to find out more about you and your amazing work, or how they can work with you, where should they go?
You can go to my website, CathlenaHailley.com, and it's CathleEena, and Hailley is HAILLEY.com.
Perfect.
Also have a YouTube channel, and I'm on Facebook, but everything's on my website. That's the best place.
Perfect. Yeah, I'll have all your details in the show notes so people can find you. Thank you again so much for this beautiful conversation, the beautiful activation, and I know that everyone that's listening live has really thoroughly enjoyed it, and there's so many thank yous on the chat. So thank you once again for being on this show, and I'll talk to you soon. Yeah.
Thank you, and take care.